Now, we were going to go inside the theater and see what was happening on the main stage, but you know, when you have friends walk by here on the porch of the Grand Hotel, Mark Wallace is the CEO of the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy. And Mark, it is so good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you as well. What a beautiful day here on Mackinac.
The joke is that no one has brought a winter coat. There are no scarves, there are no gloves, and there is sweat for the first time.
I brought a winter coat, which I think is why the weather is so good. So I take full credit for it. Yeah.
Exactly, you're the one. Well, hey, I mean, you're up here at the conference, and you come to the conference every year.
Yeah.
And just in terms of the different people that you get to speak with, and give us a sense of some of the conversations that you're having right now, because the agenda changes every year, and the unofficial agenda changes every year in conversations. But where do you kind of find ourselves now?
Well, it's interesting. There's so many conversations about quality of life right now, and I think Mackinac Island is a great place to do that. And it's interesting to see different communities grappling with similar problems. A lot of conversations around affordable housing recently. The folks at Rocket Mortgage are engaged in those conversations, certainly, and a lot of conversations about placemaking, public space. There have been huge investments in parks and recreation recently, and I'm hearing a lot of people talk about what that means for their communities. You know, the theme of I think when you think about public spaces, they have an impact on physical fitness, and they have an impact on the environment, and they have an impact on economic development. So it's interesting to see these things sort of in the ether here around the conversations.
You know, as we came up, the big conversation is how do we grow Michigan now? I mean, and what are the big thoughts and what are the big initiatives that need to stretch beyond a year?
That's right.
That need, to stretch beyond maybe when people are in office.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of that taking a step back and getting buy-in for a bigger picture, which can sometimes be very, very hard when everyone has got their own agendas and own boxes to check.
That's right. Well, and so many things we have a sense of urgency. How do we spend the ARP funds at the state? How do we spend the surplus? I mean, those are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. Also, with the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, we've been focusing on this same mission for 20 years. This is our 20th anniversary. So
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Feat.
No, it's amazing. And the work that Faye Nelson and Matt Cullen and others did to set us up for success has allowed us to keep going. It doesn't matter who's in the different offices. They all collaborate in different ways. And Mayor Duggan's team has certainly helped to push this forward and accelerated us in the riverfront. But we've been able to stay focused on that one mission because we are a little bit outside of the government infrastructure, and I think that's one of the reasons the Riverfront Conservancy has continued to succeed over the years.
What I think is so beautiful is how we have finally taken advantage of our riverfronts, and we are the #1 riverfront in the country for multiple years.
3 years in a row. It's a hat trick.
I know, seriously. But when we think about how it was like, well, first it's going to be this part, and then there's going to be a part over here, the linking up of what's happening in the new Greenway that you guys announced last week, right?
That's right.
So you opened
the
up.
Southwest Greenway just opened up last week, going from Michigan Central. Ford's doing incredible investments in mobility there. They're really focused on how do you move around your neighborhood, how do you move around the community, and they're not just focused on the tech bros and people who can afford the fancy cars.
Right.
They're focusing on all of us. How do we make it easier to move? And that Southwest Greenway is a beautiful path going right from the Corktown Southwest intersection right down to the waterfront at Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Centennial Park. So that's thrilling. And it was funny. We did our grand celebration. We had all of our VIPs and all of our friends. And I swear, 45 minutes later, I'm standing on the Greenway and I look down and a family's coming through, a bunch of people on bikes, people sweating in their jogging shorts. I was like, these aren't the people we invited. This is just the people.
Right,
these
exactly.
are our neighbors.
This is it. These are the people who use it and love it.
It's open and immediately it's being used. Yeah, so it's wild.
Because you think about placemaking and you think about, well, we all love Michigan. We know Michigan's great because we're here and we've made the choice to be here and to stay here, and making sure that other people understand that and having those amenities and having those certain things that are value, the beauty, and green space is value.
It is. No, it absolutely is. And even more so than that, having green space in an urban context is just such a special experience.
Yeah.
You think of Central Park in New York City, you think about these different, the place where the Obamas are building their library in Chicago. These physical spaces where you're right next to a city, but you also have that experience of nature. It relaxes us. It's a place of resilience when we're going through hard times.
Yeah.
And it's also a great stimulus for economic development.
I mean, and when we think about that, when you talk about the relaxing and for the resilience, haven't we all just gone through something terrible?
Oh my God.
With the pandemic?
That's right.
And we're all changed.
Yes.
And we've all been impacted whether we think we have or not.
That's right.
But that ability to step back into nature among an urban setting is key to families, to children, and
to
so
seniors.
much more. Yeah, and to seniors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times people think of parks and public spaces as kind of the icing on the cake, right? You have to have the streets, the sidewalks, and the businesses.
Extra.
But that's just the extra. If you're lucky, you get to have those. I would flip that on its head. I'd say that those are the places that keep us sane and keep us strong, especially when we're facing a pandemic, when our family's having a hard time. And look, the riverfront, we get wedding photography and we get the graduation photos, and we get people coming down there to cry because it's a place where they know they can be in nature, they can be around other human beings, they can have that sense of, sort of the magic that happens when we're around other people in nature.
Yeah, it's definitely special.
Yeah.
But to get to that point and be able to have the things that we have now, a lot of cleanup has to be done.
Oh,
and it had to be a lot of conversations 20 years ago saying, no, we don't want industry on the water. We want to be able to change it a bit. And also, you just had the cleanup of the announcement of the cleanup of the Uniroyal site.
Yes.
Talk to us about the conversations that go into that. And it's not easy.
That's a thrilling one. 20 years we've been trying to connect from the Renaissance Center all the way to the Belle Isle Bridge, and that system would be so powerful, will be so powerful when it's done. But the Uniroyal site, as everyone knows, had a tremendous amount of industrial waste, industrial trash that was sort of the legacy of that site. So we've been able to work with the EPA recently on a major cleanup project, $3 million invested in cleaning up the sediments in the water. And even before that, DTE came in and did a beautiful job of cleaning up a section that was historically used for industrial purposes there as well. So it's been interesting to see industry coming together with the federal government and with the nonprofit to make that all happen.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the challenges. Like, what keeps you up at night as you continue to lead this amazing group?
Well, the key is making sure that it's maintained well and making sure that it's sustained. So we focus a lot on our operating model. If you talk to people building parks, they'll say in about 10 years you'll spend as much money maintaining a park as you spent building it. So for us, making sure that we have the cash flow, making sure that we have the resources to keep it clean, safe, and beautiful is really the important part. And luckily for 20 years, we've been able to keep that promise to the people of Detroit and all of our visitors. It's always going to be clean, it's always going to be safe, you're always going to be proud to be down here. So that's the thing that sort of keeps me up. We are a nonprofit. We need people to support us on an annual basis. We got Shimmer on the River coming up in a couple of weeks here, so if folks want to have a great party night and also be able to contribute to the Riverwalk, it's a great way to do it. But as a nonprofit, that's a big part of our responsibility.
I know that we see the press conferences and we see the Greenway opening, and we know that that's the immediate. I know that you're looking 5 years out. You're looking 10 years out. What can you say to people about this is where we're headed?
Yeah, I think that the riverfront, when it is connected as a system, is going to be so much powerful even than it is today. And it already means so much to so many people. But for folks in Mexican Town to be able to jump on the Southwest Greenway and go all the way down to Belle Isle without ever having to fight traffic on Fort Street or on Jefferson, that is a game-changing experience. And I think this will increasingly become a place of community pride and community growth. I also would expect to see a lot of economic activity around it. And I think that's one of the things we need to balance. We want to see skyscrapers. We want to see more taxes going to the city of Detroit. Yeah, we want the taxes of the riverfront to pay for policing on the east side and on the west side and firefighters in the north end. But we need to balance that as well. And the narrative has to stay focused on welcoming everyone. As we see skyscrapers, we want to make sure that people who are there today feel welcome 5 and 10 years from now. So that's a big part of what I think about.
What are you looking forward to seeing up here?
Oh, just all the people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a great place to see folks, and it's also nice to hear new ideas being rolled out too. So I'm excited about the mayor's speech this afternoon about split tax.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
I'm a policy nerd, so it's exciting to see.
I could tell. I could tell a policy nerd a mile away. That's why you and I get along so well, Mark.
That's
all
right.
Thanks so much. Mark Wallace is the CEO of the Riverfront Conservancy. It's always good to see you.
It's
and you know what? Well, let's get out on the water.
Yes.
Let's do something for Local 4 Plus and get out on the water here
we got
this
new
summertime.
golf carts, so we'll take you out on them.
Please, we won't have to walk along.